है रोशनी का कारवां।
This podcast is brought to you by Score Foundation.
ये है रोशनी, रोशनी, रोशनी का कारवां, रोशनी। Eyeway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां।
हाय नमस्कार, मैं जॉर्ज एब्राहम आईवे कॉन्वर्सेशंस के इस कड़ी में आपका स्वागत है। माय गेस्ट टुडे इज फ्रॉम बैंगलोर, डॉक्टर संजय जैन। डॉक्टर संजय जैन नेशनल लॉ स्कूल में एक प्रोफेसर है और इससे पहले ही वाज द प्रिंसिपल ऑफ द आईएलएस लॉ कॉलेज इन पुणे। डॉक्टर संजय जैन, आपका स्वागत है।
थैंक यू वेरी मच।
सो संजय जी, आप वकालत में आपका रुचि कैसे हुआ?
As a child, I was also good in music, and therefore my family was inclined. उनको लगता था कि I will do something in music. और इसी बीच मैं देहरादून में चला गया पढ़ने के लिए,
जी।
5th स्टैंडर्ड से, और वहां जाके एहसास हुआ कि generally music is mostly identified or associated with blind people.
Yeah.
और देहरादून में एक अलग माहौल था और सब कुछ नया अलग करने की जो सोच है वो उसको हम लोगों में इग्नाइट किया गया स्कूल में। तो आई डिसाइडेड टू स्विच ओवर फ्रॉम म्यूजिक एंड टू डू लॉ, बिकॉज आई यूज्ड टू लव पॉलिटिकल साइंस, सोशियोलॉजी एज अ चाइल्ड। सोशल स्टडीज पढ़ते थे हम लोग। तो और फिर डॉक्टर देशपांडे जो मेरे मेंटर थे, टीचर थे, वो हमारे शॉप में आते जाते थे। हमारा बुक्स का शॉप था और पापा used to tell me about him and his extraordinary accomplishments. तो इसलिए मैंने 8वीं 9वीं में ही, 8th और 9th स्टैंडर्ड में ही ऑलमोस्ट आई डिसाइडेड दैट आई वुड गो फॉर लॉ।
तो जब आप स्कूल में थे, जाहिर है कि आप उस जमाने में स्कूल में थे जब ज़्यादा टेक्नोलॉजी हुआ नहीं करता था, एंड यू वर मोर डिपेंडेंट परहैप्स ऑन रीडर्स एंड ऑन ब्रेल। So law college में what was your go-to resources for studies?
Luckily जब मैं देहरादून में पढ़ता था तो we were very privileged. We had, each of us had brailler separately.
Yeah.
We had thermoform composed books. So we had dedicated readers because वो गवर्नमेंट स्कूल था
जी।
तो ऐसे हम लोगों को किसी चीज की कमी महसूस नहीं हुई। जब मैं लॉ कॉलेज में आया तो सिचुएशन बिकेम टोटली डिफरेंट। पीपल वेर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ द blind students or the issues faced by blind students. But luckily I had a very good bunch of friends who would help me in taking notes. And in return, I would reciprocate by helping them to fare the notes, because they will take running notes in the class and then they would read those notes to me and I would make those notes fair. So it was a give and take, very positive and very equal kind of relationship. And because it is a 5 years affair.
Right.
So we had a long-standing friendship. It was not like 1 year and then you are not connected with each other. So because we were all connected for 5 years. So I think friends and even some teachers in law college were also good.
डॉक्टर DY चंद्रचूड ने आपको सुप्रीम कोर्ट का जो कमिटी है ऑन एक्सेसिबिलिटी, ये कमिटी, व्हाट वाज द आइडिया बिहाइंड द कमिटी और इसका स्कोप क्या था?
लास्ट ईयर जब चीफ जस्टिस बने चंद्रचूड साहब
जी, तो
उससे पहले उनके साथ काफी मेरा कॉन्वर्सेशन था, क्योंकि वो हमारे कॉलेज के, उनके फादर आईएलएस लॉ कॉलेज के प्रेसिडेंट थे मैनेजमेंट के, और उनके फादर की जो 100th एनिवर्सरी है वो ऑनलाइन मैंने ऑर्गेनाइज की थी ऑन अ वेरी शॉर्ट नोटिस, एंड ही वाज वेरी मच इम्प्रेस्ड विद दैट प्रोग्राम बिकॉज पीपल हैड ऑलमोस्ट फॉरगॉटन द एनिवर्सरी डे। और अराउंड 1 महीने पहले मैंने उनसे ऑनलाइन फिर एस्टेब्लिश किया रिलेशन, एसोसिएशन, एंड देन वी डिड दिस थिंग। सो उसके बाद फिर मैंने एक समिट ऑर्गेनाइज किया था फॉर डिसेबल्ड जूरिस्ट, पर्टिकुलरली ब्लाइंड जूरिस्ट अराउंड द वर्ल्ड,
जी
वो 2 दिन का समिट था जिसमें ही डिलीवर्ड अ वेलेडिक्टरी एड्रेस। और उसके बाद मैंने एक बुक पब्लिश किया था ऑन डिसेबिलिटी राइट्स जूरिस्प्रूडेंस
जी
इन ऑनर ऑफ माय टीचर डॉक्टर देशपांडे, जिसमें उन्होंने एक आर्टिकल लिखा था, कंट्रीब्यूट किया था।
जी
बिकॉज ऑफ एंड देन फाइनली आई व्हेन आई appeared for the interview in NLS. He
जी
was the mentor and visitor of National Law School, India University, Bangalore.
राइट
So he, in fact, officially informed me of my selection in NLS. So because of all these different
associations
associations,
yeah
we got to know each other very well. And then he constituted a committee after becoming Chief Justice of India to uh, take to find out, to investigate to what extent Supreme Court is accessible and how we can make Supreme Court accessible. And then we were asked to write a report. Justice Ravindra Bhatt
जी
was made the in charge of that
राइट
committee, the
राइट
chairman.
राइट
And me, Rahul Bajaj, Amar Jain, and some staff of Supreme Court, Nilesh Singh. Nilesh Singh also went to do access audit of Supreme Court. And therefore, we had 2-3 meetings of the committee. And then we came out with the report, giving a lot of suggestions to the Supreme Court.
If you know of anyone with vision impairment who needs guidance on living life with blindness, please share the Eyeway National Toll-Free Helpline number 1800-5320-469. The number is 1800-5320-469.
you did your PhD in feminism and constitutional law.
Yeah.
So, what were the factors that actually influenced your choice of subject, and what were the kind of challenges you faced when you were doing this PhD program?
Yeah, good question. Actually, when we decided to do PhD in feminism, me and my teacher, Dr. Deshpande,
जी
he suggested me to go for this topic. And there were a
जी
lot of question marks because feminism was not a very grown area that time. Because I registered, I think, in 1999. So the main reason why I wanted to do PhD in feminism was I wanted to understand the marginalization and how to engage with marginalization by using law. And in my times, when I was doing law, women was one of the most marginalized, vulnerable section of the society.
जी
So I thought that maybe by studying marginalization, by engaging with marginalization, maybe I would be able to correlate the insights of my work to the disability question also. Although, to
जी
be very frank, I did not have much to think about disability studies or disability law till 2010, as I told.
जी. You had mentioned that you were interested in disability law and disability activism.
मुझे लगता है कि सबसे पहले when I got to know about disability studies when I visited Hungary
जी
for a mental health law
जी
course. And then I realized that
हम्म
okay, this is something, and I met Anna Lawson, Professor Anna Lawson there,
जी
and I realized that this is something which is meant for me. This is my turf. This
जी
is the area where I can freely play, right?
जी
And this is something where nobody has really contributed much.
जी
And this was the time also when RPWD Act was being being processed, right?
जी
Sudha Call Committee was there,
right
and UNCRPD ratification had happened, and
right
we were also discussing UNCRPD, etc.
right
So therefore, I realized that okay, this is the area now where I must contribute. And then there was no looking back because more I got into it, more I developed interest. And of course, my teacher, Dr. Deshpande, S.K. Rungta,
जी
Rahul Bajaj,
जी,
Amar Jain, and of course Professor Anna Lawson, with
right,
whom I have a very good friendship.
right.
Uh, or Professor Oliver, Gerard Quinn, so many people I met while attending different conferences programs. So it's an ongoing work. Yeah.
आपने प्रोफेसर एना लॉसन का नाम लिया एंड
जी,
यू आर द इंडियन एडवाइजर कंट्री एडवाइजर
जी,
for an international program across Europe, Asia, and Africa.
America. Yeah,
So, what is this project? And it talks about accessibility in public spaces and on the street.
yeah. It was
So,
in short, it
huh,
was an inclusive public street project which is just finished.
right.
It started during COVID. And there were a lot of things to be done, but we had to make so many changes to adapt it to the COVID scenario.
So,
But yeah,
was this an academic exercise, or was there
no, it was
any
a academic come field work exercise.
right?
So we, apart from producing a country report on accessibility, which I produced
Ji,
while I was in law college, then we conducted interviews with a lot of stakeholders,
ji,
and we also conducted interviews with uh, uh, disabled people, not only blind people, but disabled people from other disabilities also. Um, and we also filmed their experiences with their consent. Uh, and we also organized workshops in Delhi and Pune, because Delhi and Pune were our fields where we conducted field work.
ji.
So there we conducted focus groups, we conducted general discussion and consultations. Uh, yeah, so it was a kind of an interactive, come academic work. Yeah. Ji,
Everything is now going digital.
ji,
And including now all financial transactions, for instance, ये बैंक के माध्यम से ही होता है.
ji,
Most of our banks
yeah.
are still, sadly speaking, inaccessible. उनका जो
Yes,
mobile
yes,
apps हो, internet banking हो.
ji,
So, and there have been court cases, there have been cases at the CCPD's office.
yeah.
तो आपके सोच में, what is a good strategy to address this issue?
I think good strategy to address this issue is to change the attitude of the people, because you have laws, right? RBI has a very clear-cut regulation.
जी,
So there is no problem with the laws. Problem is with the
impl-
implementation of them.
जी,
For example, I wanted credit card, and my bank, the credit card personnel was insistent. Ki, no, sir, I can't give you because there is a possibility of abuse.
जी,
And I got tired convincing him that okay, it's my problem if at all there is abuse. Why you bother?
जी.
But till I escalated the matter to the highest level by writing letter to the SBI chairperson, I could not get my credit card. So I think a lot is to be with the attitude. I mean, and law cannot change the attitude, right? Because law is a superimposition.
To support our work with the blind and visually impaired, you can visit the donate page on our website www.scorefoundation.org.in. Please note www.scorefoundation.org.in.
व्यक्तिगत आपका जो जिंदगी है, आपके चाइल्डहुड में आपके फैमिली के बारे में थोड़ा बताइए. व्हेन यू आर ग्रोइंग अप, you mentioned that your father had a bookshop,
Yeah.
and so आपके भाई बहन कितने हैं, and
So
are
I have
they
two more. We are three siblings.
right?
My two sisters. One of my sisters is also blind,
जी,
and she's also doing well as a teacher. And another, my youngest sister is she's a bank auditor.
जी.
Yeah. And my mother and father, I give a lot of credit because they ensured that we got proper education. We went to school, and they did not waste a lot of time on our treatment, which happens mostly.
Right.
When they realized that there was no treatment, so they ensured that we get proper education. Yeah.
Was there any particular inspiration they had, or any kind of
Inspiration,
role,
I think Dr. Deshpande was the major inspiration,
even for them?
even for them, because he used to visit our shop.
Right.
So my
Right.
father realized that, okay, blindness is not necessarily end of life,
जी.
and you can still do well if you pursue your education,
जी.
study
जी. जी. जी.
seriously.
और आपका जो जिंदगी के सफर में आपके वाइफ कब जोड़ा?
Yeah, she was my student basically during LLM,
जी.
and in 1998 we met.
जी.
Then for 1 year we took time, because we both thought that it should be a very sorted decision. It should not be a decision overwhelmed by emotion. So in 1999 we got married. It was a properly arranged marriage,
Right.
because I was insisting that her family also should completely unconditionally support, because it should not happen that without their support I should marry her.
So love में connect हुआ, but the marriage
Yes,
was arranged.
yes, it was arranged with both the families,
Right.
and now we are happily staying since then. And of course,
You're about
uh,
26 years, 26 years of
26
marriage.
years
Yeah.
of marriage, and my son, who is an engineer,
जी.
recently engaged, and uh, I think she is also LLM, and that's a plus point. And
जी.
she has sacrificed her career for my growth,
जी.
and because she takes care of the other things, I can unconditionally, work on
Okay.
my academic development, and that is why I'm able to write so much, been able to publish so much. So I think lot of credit to her.
So you have one son only,
Yes, once.
no other children.
No.
So as a father, meaning what has been, if you were to say that मैंने ये contribute किया है,
I believe that as a father, if I were to pinpoint one singular contribution,
जी.
I made my son to, uh, made him to learn how to stick to one's own decisions. I mean, he would not bog down by anybody's influence, right? So, for example, I wanted him to do law,
जी.
but he was very clear that he would do engineering.
Right.
So, I think this is the singular most contribution, that you are able to make your child do what he wants to do without bothering by any influence, right? And
Be
that's most important. Yes,
be focused and committed. That's what you.
yes. Whatever you want to do, you should have commitment, dedication, and focus.
हाँ. So आपका जो देशपांडे सर गुरु जी आपका भी यही कहा था ना?
जी,
बी फोकस्ड, डोंट
बी
वेस्ट योर टाइम.
फोकस्ड। नहीं,
हाँ.
सर तो हमेशा, मतलब सर का एक जो पेट सेंटेंस था कि डोंट फॉलो लक्ष्मी, जस्ट फॉलो सरस्वती, लक्ष्मी विल कम ऑटोमेटिकली।
Right.
So
It's all about learning and knowledge.
it's all about learning and knowledge, and rest will follow. And
So
I must also mention one more person
जी.
who, without whose contribution, I don't think I would have reached this stretcher.
जी.
That is Advocate Arvind Datta.
जी.
He has singularly ensured that, wherever I want to go, I've visited so many countries.
जी.
I needed so many gadgets.
जी.
So Datar sir has ensured, and he made me confident about my productivity, because
जी.
be it Aadhaar case, privacy case, so many interesting judgments. because as a leading lawyer of the country, he would be part of many important cases.
जी,
And he would often call me, or I would call him, and we would discuss over telephone the important points about the cases. So I think he made me realize that I am professionally very, very competent, and my opinions matter. So he gave me confidence uh, that as a lawyer, as a student of constitutional law, my opinions matter and my opinions can be taken seriously. So I think Datar sir's push and incentive has made all the difference. I mean, I cannot imagine myself here in NLS without his push and help.
right. So I just want to ask you, Sanjay, this today there are so many national law colleges and law schools and law universities across the country. In fact, there is a mushrooming of many of these national law schools.
Yes, yes,
And there are a lot of visually impaired people actually taking law.
yes.
What is your advice to them? How would you guide them in terms of if you were to give them some tips on how to build their career in law? Because a lot of people do their law, but uske baad they get stuck in finding
Yeah,
jobs. So what
I,
is
I
your
yeah,
advice?
I believe that career of law is a very, 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 very important avenue. You don't require any investment. Most importantly, as a lawyer, your only investment is your creative mind, right?
Ji,
Uh, but you should have patience. And secondly, as disabled lawyers, you can make a lot of difference as a litigator, as a arguing counsel, as a teacher, or even as a litigant, because
ji,
you will reflect your own experiences. People will not speak on behalf of you. And I think now with Rahul Bajaj, Amar Jain, and Rungta, and so many other lawyers arguing very frequently in Supreme Court and High Courts, the hitch in the minds of judges that people with disabilities can they really do law? I think it's slowly it's getting away, and slowly I think there is a realization that okay, law is a field which is uninhibited. If you want to do well, only thing is you need determination. So, so I believe that I think that in the near future, it's a very 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 promising field, career of law.
yeah. So one final question I'd like to ask you. When people are doing law, जो students, blind students law कर रहे हैं,
जी.
are there any particular skills that you think is important for blind students or blind aspiring lawyers to develop so that they become more independent and self-reliant?
Skills, दो चार skills बहुत जरूरी. First of all, you should have a penchant for learning English.
जी,
There is no alternative to English.
जी,
Secondly, your communication skills. You should
जी,
be a good communicator.
जी,
Thirdly, your listening ability.
जी,
People sometimes speak too much, so you should also have the ability to listen
जी,
to the others. Then you should have a very flexible mindset. You should be able to appreciate others, ideas of others as well, right? Instead of just imposing your own views on your friends and peers. And technology. I mean, you should know to handle laptops, cell phones, social media, because there is no shortcut to that. And your mobility.
जी. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया संजय जैन जी कि आपने टाइम निकाला और हमसे बात किया एंड
Thanks a lot.
shared
Thank you
your
very much.
valuable experience to our listeners.
Yes.
Thank you
yes.
very much and wish you the very
Thanks a lot.
best.
Thank you, George sir. Thank you.
Eyeway, ये है रोशनी का कारवां.
This podcast was brought to you by Score Foundation.
ये है रोशनी 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 का कारवां रोशनी Eyeway ये है रोशनी का